There's no question that the effects of emergencies and disasters have become more frequent, more serious, and oftentimes more devastating to more people than ever before. Our health and safety are challenged every time one such emergency or disaster strikes. And if there's a warning that a threat of emergency is imminent, we are probably not as prepared as we ought to be. Conversely, if there is no warning of imminent danger, can we ever be prepared? We have traditionally relied heavily on our government to help manage the risks associated with emergencies. And while our government, at all levels, does an effective job, the scale and severity of emergencies and disasters are growing, and systemic threats are posing emergency risks for all of our communities. In fact, according to the Federal Emergency Management Administration, and I quote, "Accelerating changes in demographic trends and technology are making the effects of disasters more complex to manage. One future trend affecting emergency needs is continued population shifts into vulnerable areas. Other demographic changes will affect disaster management activities, such as a growing population of people with disabilities living in communities instead of institutions, as well as people living with chronic conditions. Also, communities are facing a growing senior population entering this demographic group." End quote. As we think about preparing for and managing during emergencies, it becomes vital for increasing our preparedness and engaging with members of the community as partners in enhancing the resiliency and security of our nation, ourselves, our neighbors, our seniors, and our institutions whose aim is to protect those seniors on a daily basis, our senior centers. Thinking in terms of broadening our approach to emergency management, we need to become familiar with and then begin the process of incorporating the concept of a whole community approach to emergency management. Now, if we use the FEMA model, let's first define just what the whole community approach is. As a concept, whole community is a means by which residents, emergency management practitioners, organizational and community leaders, and government officials can collectively understand and assess the needs of their respective communities and determine the best ways to organize and strengthen their assets, capacities, and interests. By doing so, a more effective path to our community's security and resilience is built. In this sense, whole community is a philosophical approach on how to think about conducting emergency management. Let's now talk about whole community principles. Numerous factors will contribute to efficient and effective emergency management outcomes. Let's discuss the 3 principles that represent the foundation for establishing a whole community approach for your community. 1. Understand and meet the actual needs of the whole community. Community engagement can lead to a deeper understanding of the unique and diverse needs of your population. It's important to take into consideration your unique demographics, your values, your norms, community structures, networks, and community relationships. The more you know about your community, the better you can help provide real-life safety and sustaining partnerships in emergency-related activities prior to an event. Knowing your community and the people you're serving is a key to better emergency management procedures. Engage and empower all parts of the community. Engaging the whole community and empowering local action will better position stakeholders to plan for and meet the actual needs of a community and strengthen the local capacity to deal with the consequences of all threats and hazards. This requires that you work with and join forces with other members of your community to be part of a larger emergency management team. The team can be comprised of a rich diversity of community members, social and community service groups and institutions, faith-based organizations, groups representing people with disabilities, private and other nonprofit organizations, and others in your community. When the community is engaged in an authentic dialogue, it becomes empowered to identify its needs and the existing resources that may be used to address them. And last, strengthen what works well in communities. By working with and becoming an integral part of community relationships before an incident occurs can be leveraged to act effectively during and after an emergency strikes. Now let's look at the pathways for action. The following are some broad questions to think about when implementing a whole community approach to emergency management. The first question we need to think about is, how can we better understand the actual needs of the seniors in the community we serve? What partnerships might we need in order to develop an understanding of the broader community's needs? And how can we better understand just what those needs are? And how can they better understand what the needs of our clients are? How do we effectively engage with the whole community in emergency management to be a part of the larger emergency preparedness community? How do we generate public interest in disaster preparedness in order to get a seat at the table with other community organizations? How can we tap into what our community is interested in order to engage in discussions about increasing the resilience of our senior center? What activities can we change or create with respect to emergency preparedness to create or help strengthen what already works well? How can we support other community organizations in these efforts? Building community resilience means we are building our senior center's resilience. By working together with others in your community, you add extra layers of safety. The whole community approach allows organizations, both big and small, to work together in times of crisis, when some extra hands might be necessary. After all, we have learned during this current worldwide emergency, we've been made aware of the fact that if we are all in it together, we can get through it much safer and more quickly.